Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Let's set up some beats for us. There we go. That's perfect. This is great. Okay. Hopefully you guys can hear that. Uh, Hello. Welcome back. Today is day 3 of this week. I still get nervous for some I've been streaming now for like a couple weeks now, and I still get nervous on starting every single time. I don't know if that nervousness will even go away. In fact, I expect that it probably won't. In fact, it probably will just be a part of this process. And I think that is okay, actually. The I think that the nervousness does sort of facilitate a sense of dynamism within yourself. Like I can sort of, I can't really control that nervousness, and it sort of springs on its own accord and it sort of does whatever it wants to do, which is actually kind of good news for me. Because what that means is that I'm able to follow that and not really worry about what direction it's taking me. If the nervousness is something, or the fear is something that sort of has a mind of its own, then I don't have to worry about coming up with anything new. I don't have to come up with any new ideas. I can just let that guide me and then see where it takes me. So if something makes me feel more nervous, if something makes me feel more scared, that is a thing that I pursue. I know it's kind of it's a I think a really wonderful part of being alive and being a person is that we get to have this thing that acts as, our light or our north star. And I think that the difficult thing is learning how to follow it, because it's very scary to follow it. It's like one of the scariest things to do, because you leave yourself vulnerable and you put yourself in at risk of rejection, of criticism, of being insulted, of being vulnerable and being low. So when you put yourself at risk of that, then it becomes easy to be abused, and it also becomes easy to abuse. So it makes sense why this is something that a lot of people struggle with. Especially if you are somebody who has experienced abuse in your life. I think most of us have. I think that's a very normal part of being alive, of being a person. And I don't want to say that that abuse, that neglect. I don't want to say that is an important part of living, but rather, like, if it is an unavoidable part of living, then we should learn to see it as a gift. Is a gift because it enables us to create, and it enables us to write, and it enables us to help others who are in that same path. At least most of the time. I am going to start my timer. Got a little timer right here. And I think we're just going to chill out for a bit. Something that I'm interested in, sort of interested in using this. Hello, by the way. Hello, hi. I'm sort of interested in using this little guy as as a vehicle for me to be more casual, be more communicative and open, and more of a character. And then once it's time to get more serious, then I've got this. That's sort of how I'm right now. How I'm planning to switch between these two. So once I see something happening in chat, then I'll like switch to this, and I'll be like, hi, hello, how's it going? My name is Serious Scoop, and I've got lots of I'm just having fun, kind of being a little guy. Then go here, and it's like, wait, no, frick, the illusion has worn off. Oh no, because secretly I am still the same person. I'm still I'm still goofy in my own little way. Uh, this is maybe more dishonest, but dishonesty is a shield, and in this case the shield is enabling me to be a truer version of myself. So I got this guy, so I say hello, and now I've got here. That's the for now, that's how I'm going to be splitting between those two. I'm not looking to be a VTuber. I'm not looking to be a PNG tuber. That's not my goal. My goal is to be an artist, and my goal is to create. My goal is to make an impact on the world. But I'm always looking at different ways of allowing myself to explore different methods of being. And it is also true that I enjoy this image. I think I look so cute here. Like I think I just look so cute, and I think I like how I little bounce. I think I would like to play with live 2D. Like really make this into something that's a bit more impressive. But I also don't want to. I don't know. It shouldn't be too impressive, actually. Like should be. I think it should always be just a little bit crude. I think that's actually pretty important. But I also want to get to learn Live 2D. I think that'll be fun. I think that'll be a fun little project for me. There's also the issue, like I've said this a couple times now, about my voice is a little. God, I gotta protect it. Gotta think about it. But I think it is getting better. I think I am getting better at it. And I think I'm also learning to also speak a little bit quieter, but more, just more loud with my diaphragm. So that's gonna be one part of this journey. Another part of this journey is going to be learning how to act better, learning how to sing. Those are going to be two very important parts of this to be a good presenter. I want to be a good public speaker. It's like one of the soft skills that I necessitate and require in this life. So that being said, I suppose let's just get this show on the road. I wanna get through this book because I'm sick of having this book looming over me. I wanna finish it. So how we're gonna do this? Really, I want to see if there's a way I can sort of formulate my thoughts better. This is tricky because I'm reading through this book, and it's a good book. It's also, there's a unfortunate side effect of this, is that this book is also a copyright. It's a paid book, so I can't show it easily, and it might be difficult to inspire people to go through this book. It's not an expensive book, and it's a book. So this is not I'm not trying to inspire anything, but books are not terribly difficult to get around paid systems. That's putting it out there. There are libraries and possibly other ways of doing it. So I don't think that saying, like, I think it's okay that I'm using a paid book and, you know, and not worry too much about the fact that it is less accessible, at least right now. I think in the future I would like to incorporate content that is totally free. That is my one of my many goals. Because I want to inspire people to learn. I want to make that the process of learning very easy for people to do, where they don't even have to think about it. They just go. And that to me is actually more important than just being a, you know, than just being a person of knowledge. Although that is important to me too. Hey 13, how's it going? I want to know. I want to be good as many things as possible. So that includes writing. Like, I want to be good at writing. However, you know, I don't want people to look to me as, you know, to give them the specific guidance on writing. Although I think that will happen regardless, because I think I will develop knowledge just through learning. But really what I do is I want to inspire people to take their own path, and I want to inspire people to start learning for their learning themselves and knowing how to use the resources that exist for them. Because the skill that I've developed and that culminated, one of the skills that I've culminated really is how to find the right resources to guide you. It's actually not that easy to do. And when you, especially if you don't know a lot about a certain topic, it's really easy to be misguided by a lot of content that exists not necessarily to teach you, but to profit or to be popular. If you go on YouTube and you search, how do I write? You will have a difficult time parsing between good information and popular information. And those two things don't often align. Sometimes they align. Maybe, in fact, I said often, but like maybe most of the time they align. I don't know, but it's not always. It's definitely not always. And it is, especially as a beginner, it is maybe impossible to separate between those two things without a better understanding of what good material looks like. So that's why eventually I think I will pivot to looking at materials or looking at resources that are free, that are available for people to watch, so that they can take their own step forward, so that they can, you know, if they have this desire, they feel this desire to create or to study, that they can just, you know, plunge in without worrying about any barriers related to cost. So yeah, I plan on doing that in the future. Right now, I think I'm going to stick with this material, even though it's paid. I hope that you know, I hope that people can forgive me for that. I'm sure people will. It does just suck that I have to cover most of it because I don't want to get DMCA striked, but it is what it is. So I forget exactly which chapter we were in, but I do remember the game that we were playing, which is one where we talk about what kinds of actions a certain character would take and try to describe a character using those actions, as opposed to just saying what their traits are. So this is kind of like showing versus telling is the idea of this, which in my opinion is a very dishonest way of writing, because, you know, you are not directly telling the reader something, you are sort of obfuscating it with actions, but it is a more interesting way to write, which justifies that dishonesty. That's my sort of thought on that. I really don't like metaphors. It feels like authors are lying to me when they tell me a metaphor. I fucking hate it. But it's that's just the game of writing. That's what writers, you got to do that if you're a writer. Um so last time, so we came up with this sentence we came up with an upstanding acrobat. That was our description of a person, and we came up with a sentence. He hosted yearly charity events in Brazilian favelas and safely guided children on their first mid-air stunts. So the idea of this sentence is to portray, okay, so we've got this acrobat, and how do we portray that this acrobat is an upstanding citizen? So we literally gave him like whatever description we could give, whatever actions we could give to solidify that idea, that idea, kind of above all else. So we picked Brazilian favelas, which is a kind of, it's cliche, but it communicates that idea really well. And so that's what we went with. We're not going to worry too much about cliches right now. We can avoid that as we sort of practice writing more. I am not a very good writer, so I'm going to be using cliches, where I can, if it helps me overcome my fear of writing badly, just like allowing myself to be cliche. Our next sentence is a lame divorcee. So we thought about what are the ways in which we could make a divorcee seem lame. So we thought about what a lame person would do. And then some of the things we thought about would be, first of all, we made a list of what we know about divorcees. And then we made a list of what a lame person would do. So for a divorcee, we thought maybe a divorcee could be someone who's very stressed, maybe very unhappy, maybe sexually frustrated or sexually unfulfilled, recently divorced. So these aren't things that are guaranteed for divorcees. These are just things that jump into our minds when we think of a divorcee. So that's the distinction there. We're not thinking about, like, we're playing into expectations, and we're doing that very intentionally. Then we thought about what a lame person would do. So a lame person might be someone who's like unemployed, maybe someone who's gross. I said someone who plays video games all day, someone who's unambitious, someone maybe has the same routine, it's no desire to challenge themselves, someone who's very stagnant, a very passive person, someone who I thought was someone who we could describe as lame. And then we come up with a couple examples of what a lame divorcee might do in that scenario. So a lame divorcee could be like someone who lives with his mom's basement and is a streamer and doesn't put much effort into his streams, kind of thing. So that was our, example of how we could portray lameness in the divorcee. And this is something we came up with. And now our goal is to turn this sentence into something that is better read. So this is where we apply all of our writing skills that we've learned so far. So we have, in this sort of effort, we have a list of things that we like, basically different like rules that we can pull from to write better. So I'm going to pull up that list right now. If I can find it. Could be in my journal. It is not in my journal. I have a bunch of different places where I have my notes. It is not good. I gotta solidify these somewhere and somehow. We thought I did put it into my art learning journal. And if I didn't, that's okay, because we can just start fresh. We can just do it again, which is what I guess we're gonna do now. So, oh, I have an idea. What if, oh, I would love to have some kind of wiki. Is there like good wiki software to create a wiki? I started one a couple of months ago and I didn't really catch up with it. How to create a wiki. I would love to have a different wiki of just like the things that I learned. Let's see. I don't want a fandom. I want free wiki hosting your no ads. Mira Hayes Meta. Powered by Media Wiki. Okay, I think this is something I have to do in my own time. But for now, I think let's just go scroll all the way to the very top. And let's call this maybe like the rules of writing. Just rules of writing. Writing rules. Okay, because there's, what the heck did that go? There are 7 important ones. And for some reason, when I do a 1 dot, oh, it must be because there's a page, there's like a page break here. So let's not worry about that. Okay, writing rules. Let's start with number 1. And then we're just gonna go through this book, and then we're gonna start from the beginning. In fact, let's maybe call this like the writing games. The wordiness game. The rule here is to come up with okay, so there's a game, and then there's like what the game is teaching you. That's kind of what I'm trying to distill this into 2 parts. So the rule. So here's the game itself. And then, but that's not really the important thing. The important thing is like what you learn from it. So the game itself is this: is to come up with 10 boring adjectives. The adjectives. It's just words. Words, 10 simple but interesting words, and 10 wordy words. So words are basically too overly complicated. Here, basically what the result of this, or like what we learn, here's a lesson, is choose simple words unless you, I want to say like, unless you have a good reason not to. So unless, all right, you have a good reason not to. Avoid boring words, however. So we want to basically only use simple words when pretty much all the time. We want to try to use words that aren't overly complicated, unless there's a stylistic reason for it. Like if we are trying to communicate a very specific idea, if we're trying to make a character appear very intelligent, for example, we might want to give into jargon. Or if it adds a certain amount of flavor, if you feel like you really want to use this word, that could be a good reason as well. So good reasons include it can include personal taste. It can include characterization. It can include specific meaning. Otherwise, it takes the viewer out of it. Boring words can still be useful as invisible words. So this is another sort of like tip, another idea, is that, like, for example, the word said, like he said this or she said this. That word is incredibly powerful because it is invisible. And then you sort of have to wonder, like, why do we want invisible words sometimes? Why do we want words that are otherwise essentially filler? And it has to do with pacing, and it has to do with expectations. Like sometimes we just need rocks in our scene, and I don't mean this in the writing way. I mean this in an art way. Like sometimes when you're drawing, you have a scene you're creating, or you're drawing something. It's like you just need dirt, you need rocks, you need a setting. That's what boring words can give you. 2. So that's the wordiness game. The Lee game. Change weak verbs with adverbs into strong verbs. The idea here is that lesson, right? The lesson here is we can find verbs or rather that precise verbs is better. The less words we can use, the better. So to shorten our sentences, you don't want to be too verbose. So an example here is like saying, instead of saying spoke boringly, you can say he mumbled. So maybe I can use that example here. Example. Spoke boringly can be converted into mumbled. We don't have to say spoke boringly. We can just say he mumbled. That it allows us to employ these words better. So let's do number 3. The active voice game. Here's the game. Change passive sentences into active sentences. And here's a lesson. Active sentences are more interesting. And that active characters and active will is more interesting than passive characters and passive will. Here's an additional lesson. So here, let's say this is like a extra lesson. Think about streaming. What is more interesting? A streamer who sort of waits for things to happen and lets the audience dictate what the stream is going to be about, or a streamer who makes active decisions about what the stream is going to be about. Making active decisions. A streamer who makes active decisions is more interesting. Who lets the audience dictate their pacing. So, for example, deciding when to communicate with the audience. So we have an audience who's interacting, an audience who's asking questions. It is better to wait for a good time to talk to the audience. Finish your thought, finish what you're doing. Don't pause the game just to talk to the audience. Find a good opportunity to do so. Think of a professor. A professor who, a professor when they're teaching, they wait until they finish their point to answer questions. Unless, of course, that point, if there's a good reason to answer that question right away. Otherwise, a teacher has their time, and then they wait until questions can be asked, and then they allow the students to ask questions. Sort of like the same lessons here. Here's the Be Specific game. Add adjectives to make nouns more specific. In fact, this is a good way to also add humor. So here's an example. The car became worthless can be turned into the Ferrari. No, that's not adding an adjective. I guess it could count as an adjective, but let's try to do something else. We can say like the brand new car became worthless. Okay, immediately sort of changes the sentence, and then it makes it sound a little bit more. It's an opportunity to add humor. Contradicting adjectives is just a really great way to sort of play with expectations. So the lesson here: adjectives can guide how the viewer, or how the audience, how the reader, I should say, should feel. This is a little bit like music. So we can maybe even think of this as, we can think of adjectives having the same role as music has in cinema, where music dictates how we should feel. The music is a clue. This tells us, okay, that we should feel sad, we should be happy right now, we should feel scared, we should feel tense. Adjectives can kind of do the same thing. So maybe there's room here to think of adjectives as actually more as something that's a little bit more non-diegetic, sort of coming from the same place that music comes from. The positive game here is turn negative sentences into positive ones. The example here is like not pleasant can be turned into foul, for example. So I'm saying not, this is not pleasant. You just remove the not and then you use another word that is more interesting. The lesson here is it is easier to get the reader to imagine something than to not imagine something. You're saying like, you know, don't imagine an elephant. You're going to be imagining an elephant. So that creates friction. The extra lesson here is this can be, let's say you're making a game. This friction could be a way to add tension. Say you're making a game. The goal is do not touch the spikes. Do not. You're going to be thinking about falling into those spikes, and you're going to be wanting to avoid those spikes. So when you say don't, when this is like not this, that could actually be just an interesting way to play with how the reader should feel. So kind of it's so not about saying you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. Really, like what all this is about is knowing how these different techniques influence how a reader feels about something or should feel about something. Then let's do the show don't tell game. And here is the game to turn adjectives into verbs. So here's a sort of funny little loop that's happening here, is that we have one of these games is to add adjectives to make nouns more interesting. And then the next game is to then turn those adjectives into verbs. So there's a little like loop. There's like a little loop that's happening here, which I think is so fascinating. Here, the lesson we can say is actually, I kind of think the lesson is pretty self-explanatory, but we'll try to write it down anyway. Verbs help show use verbs. Just use verbs. Verbs are great. That's the game. That's I think what uh what that means basically. I'm gonna charge my watch. Give me a second. All right, that's our 6 games. I think there was a 7th one. There may be a 7th one. Yeah, there is. 7. Is the appeal... I forgot about this one. Appeal to senses. The game here is... use your senses to describe environments. Pretty easy. Here's a really great one. I think we're gonna pause there because these other games start to get really... Well, actually, you know what? Let's just write them down. 8. Cliche. The game is, again, we're gonna simple. Avoid cliche. Let's do 9, which is the associations. The game here is to use phrases that borrow nouns or house words associated with a subject matter. So like here's the example here. The magician disappeared into the kitchen. So the word disappeared here, what that is doing for us, it is reminding us that the musician is, sorry, the magician is a magician. Like the word disappear sort of invokes that imagery. This is a pretty tricky one, actually. I think this is that's a really hard thing to master. I think it only really, like, this is one of those things that I think you really only can get good at through a lot of practice. This one is interesting. The right senses about people game. The game is pretty simple. It is make people the subject matter. The example here is saying, instead of saying her eyes search the corridor, this can turn into she searched the corridor. The lesson here is not to always make people the subject matter. It is that humans are primed to observe other humans. This is true in art. This is true in music. When we have elements that are very human oriented, we dig right into that. So like I say, you are drawing a landscape, include a person there, the eye will almost certainly go right to the person, because psychologically we are primed, we are ingrained to do that action. So this is sort of borrowing, I think, from that. All right. Here are there's also another game too that I didn't really write down, which is like the rhythm game or the music game. This one I think is pretty complicated. So, applying all of these rules into every sentence is tough, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try to my best to. Here's the music game. It is to just. I don't think the book did a good job of turning this into a game. So, use sounds. Use the way words sound to invoke rhythm. And then the book doesn't even give any examples about that, so we're not even going to worry about that. I don't know, if the book isn't respecting that enough, I'm not going to respect it enough. And then where were we? We were here. We're in this game, which is like the showing character game. So we've got this sentence. His mom banged on the door to deliver him his laundry. Harold already began live streaming his favorite game. In his stream, he got very upset with his female teammates, especially one who reminded him of his ex-wife. I think that's okay. That's decent. We can do better. Let's look at this one by one. Okay. Let's separate this into two sentences to give ourselves an easier time to parse through this. And we are going to be referencing the games that we played. So we go over here. So we got the boring but interesting words. We've got the adjective game, the active voice game, the specific game, the positive game, the show don't tell game, the appeal to senses, cliche, associations, music, and people. That's a lot of games. So we're going to start one by one. First game. If I can find it. All right, let's start with, think about the boring words and turn into more interesting words. Banged. I think let's highlight this as a boring word. Let's maybe highlight this one. Got very upset as female teammates, especially one who reminded him of his ex-wife. Let's start with this sentence first. His mom banged on his door to deliver him his laundry. Banged, pretty boring word. let's go to the thesaurus. Let's go to thesaurus.com or whatever and search up for the word banged. Got clang, rattle, thumped, boom, burst, clatter. In fact, here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that up for now so that you guys can see that. Got clang, rattle, thump, boom, burst, clatter, crash, detonate, drum, echo, explode, bash, bumped, collided, knocked, thumped, whacked, pound. I like pound. See, so here we've got this sentence. We pound, so banged on his door to deliver him his laundry. If we think of associations, if we think of like where we can pull associations from, the mom, we don't really have much work with the mom. So maybe let's like, you know, if we think of like what do we associate moms with? I think what would be interesting is to sort of like deliver a sort of story, like a sense of time in this. So his mom knocked, then pounded at his door. And I say here to deliver him his laundry. But I think this to me is an example of the people game where like it's not really describing what she's doing, right? She's going to deliver his laundry. We can show that by saying like what is she doing right now? What does she have with her right now? So she's pounding at this door. She maybe has her hands full with laundry. I think it'd be really funny is if she had like a basket already, like a big basket of laundry like with her. So she was pounding on the door and she already has a big, so you're kind of wondering like, you know, how is she pounding on the door with laundry? And maybe that could be, you know, something people might clock as a mistake, but I think it would be funny. I want to try it. I want to see what happens. Pounded at his door. So her hands were full. Maybe we can change it to kicked. Is there a word that sort of means to like knock with like, you know, knock with your knuckles? We're gonna revert it to pounder for now, but we might need her to kick it. But her mom, his mom, she was hands full with laundry. She was holding a basket. Harold's laundry. Let's sort of like keep working at this. Keep working on this. So mom knocked upon his door holding a basket full of Harold's laundry. Already began streaming favorite game. So here we can say like he had his noise canceling headphones on. We can say, think about like what, try to sort of act as her, as this mom. It's got a full, it's like she's like pregnant. Pregnant is a good word. Hold on. Hold on. We might have something here. What do you do when you like walk like this? Is it waddling? Get up. To waddle. I think we use the word waddled. You would say like she waddled to her son. She braced. Her son's laundry and waddled. Racing her son's heavy laundry. She waddled to his door. Tried to knock. She waddled to his room, tried to knock, then kicked his door. Then I think we can say something like, you can say, I think something like she didn't get a response. And like, let's just keep writing. She didn't get a response. She was too late. Maybe like, what? Is disconnected from the server? Hello? There you go. Okay, sorry, I'm back. Okay, she was too late. His son had already started yelling. His teammates. Okay, I think we're getting somewhere. So now I already started yelling at his virtual teammates. Here in the already started yelling, I think we can come up with something more interesting here. But she was too late. We can say something like his son already started yelling. But actually, I kind of liked it how it was before. Was too late. His son already started yelling at his virtual teammates and couldn't hear her. This one in the stream got very excited as female teammates, especially one who reminded him of his ex-wife. I think we can get rid of that. I don't think that's really helping here. I actually don't really know how to integrate the divorcee aspect into the sentence. Here, this part here, that she was already yelling as virtual teams and couldn't hear her. I think that's okay. I think maybe let's just go back up here. Let's try to maybe incorporate some of the let's like look at the words here that we're using. We can also might want to think about different adjectives that we can use. Where were we? Oh no, where were we? Here we go. Heavy laundry. Instead of heavy laundry, what are some things that we can use? Heavy? We don't need heavy. She's already bracing it. We can think of this is hard, by the way. I'm having a difficult time. This is really tricky. She was like, his son was already yelling at his virtual teams and couldn't hear her. How can we describe heavy laundry? Let's look at a basket of heavy laundry. Maybe overstuffed. Overstuffed, I think that's better, but we're also adding more words. We have overstuffed laundry basket. Bracing his son's overstuffed laundry basket, she walked to his room, tried to knock, and kicked his door. I think we're just gonna go with overstuffed laundry basket. Stuffed basket of her son's laundry. Maybe better. But now I think we're making it too complicated. In fact, I don't even think we need to say that that it's his son's laundry. I think that's assumed. Maybe that can be implied. Bracing the overstuffed laundry basket, she walked to his room, tried to knock, then kicked his door. She waddled to his room. I think we're good here. She was too late. His son, to be her son. Here, this couldn't hear her. I think this could be implied. Here, I think what the idea I want to bring up here is that he escaped into his video game to avoid confronting his thoughts and feelings about his wife. Worst way to write this, but that's okay. This is what we can start with this. He escaped into his video game to avoid confronting his thoughts and feelings about his wife. I don't know. I'm not really sure how to introduce this into the previous sentence. We can say, avoid confronting his thoughts and feelings about his wife. The video game, we can come up with words that are maybe related to video game to help us here. Right? We don't want to say like since the divorce. Was this like there's like a phrase here that's like sort of like screaming into the void or screaming at your own thoughts or screaming or like avoid hearing your own thoughts, like yelling to avoid hearing your own thoughts. So we can say like blocking out like outside noises and inside noises is the idea that we're going to go with here. Voices and his own voices, inner voices. appeared to sort of like yelling at his virtual teammates. Say like preventing. Hi Mariners, how's it going? I'm working on the stupid, I don't know if you remember like the divorcee sentence, the lame divorcee sentence. I'm trying to like really workshop this paragraph into something that like I'm proud of, and it's pretty hard, but I think I'm starting to get there. I'm doing well. I'm doing pretty good. I hope that if the power goes out, whatever, that'll be hopefully resolved tomorrow. But we should be fine. My first editing session with the editor today. How did that go? Julius is awesome. Did on stream, so there was a few tech issues. So yeah. That's just the nature of streaming. But that's awesome. Is she one of the like? Is she someone who like streams regularly? How's it going for you? It's going. I'm trying to here. I've got so the last thing I gotta worry about here. I think is I gotta figure out how to integrate. I think I've got him being lame. I just need to figure out how to put the divorcee aspect into this. How do I like? Where do I remind the reader that this one is, that he, you know, the reason why he's yelling is because he doesn't want to hear his own thoughts. It's kind of what I'm trying to say, and I don't want to sort of like nudge that. Would you be able to make it a little bit bigger? Yeah. I didn't realize it was actually that small. Hold on. Hold on. There we go. Sorry about that. Is that better? I can make it even bigger if you want me to. There we go. Sorry about that. Even his own thoughts. I could actually kind of end this. This might be a little bit cheap to end it this way. It might be a little cheap. But let's look at the. Well, I've got like a list of different, sort of like different tips that I learned from the book that I'm reading. Positive game appeal to senses, cliche associations, music. Let's go back here. Thank you. Thank you very much. I spent a little bit of time before this stream today. I spent about an hour just to, really try to like spice this up. But I think I gotten it to a really good spot. I think I really like where this is at. And I've also got this. Now I also got this too. So now I got my little guy, and this is sort of my more, more maybe like chatty casual mode, or I don't know. I'm still not sure exactly where this is gonna line up with that, but this is me. This is my little guy. And then when I'm really giving sort of like a workshop, or I'm really like trying to talk about something or study something, I think this suits that a lot better, because I think that my communication is given in a lot of ways. One of those ways is face. I have to include my face. This is like if I'm teaching something, if I want to teach it well as best as I can, I don't think it's negotiable, actually, to if you're teaching, if you're like trying to be something like that, just because like of the amount that you can learn from seeing what someone's face is doing. That's kind of why I'm so hesitant to be a VTuber, at least in teaching context. But within more casual settings or something, I think this is like really cute. I think he's cute. I think he's just he's just having a good time being a little bouncy. Divorcing himself from. Divorced from the world. Divorced from the world, like she divorced him. That's not how I'm gonna write that. Wordplay in single player games somewhere. What do you mean? Oh, I see what you mean. You're so smart. You're so smart. You're so smart. Oh my god. Oh my god. You're so smart. Yelling. Divorce from the world and secluding or okay. What's the word that means like hiding yourself into? Is it secluding? Secluding synonym or definition. You're so smart. Secluded. Yelling at the screen. His computer as his computer screen. Divorced from the world and isolated. I want to say like divorced from the world, and I want to say like giving into or giving up into his single, like sort of like committing to what I'm looking for synonyms of committing. Put in single and single player games. Exactly. What are words related to playing, like divorce from the world and I'm gonna look for words outside of games. Word hippo. I remember that. Let me check that out. Another word for committing. Consigning, resigning, delegating, leaving, passing, conveying, dispatching, authorizing. Resigning. To is resign. What is how does that sound? Resigning. Okay. All right. I'm gonna keep it at that. I think that's like fine. I think I did a commendable job. I you know, I can do better, but this is hard. Like this is like so I'll go over with you, Marina, sort of like the rules that because there's like 11 rules ish more than that, but there's a lot of rules here that are sort of being intertwined with this. Well, okay, we've got like the like the rule to use simple but interesting words, not words that are too wordy. Rule number 1. Rule to replace adjectives with strong verbs. So instead of spoke boringly, you want to say mumbled. Rule to use the active voice instead of passive voice. The rule to be specific, so add nouns to make things more specific, to maybe heighten humor or something. Then there's like the rule to say things positively. So instead of saying something that's not pleasant, you can say foul. You can do the show don't tell game, which is And this rule is to turn adjectives into verbs. So we have one rule where you add adjectives, and then you have another rule where you turn adjectives into verbs. So there's like a little bit of a cyclical game that is happening here. Then there is the appeal to senses game. So just like thinking about what is it that people see. Oh, I just came up with an idea. Then there is the cliche game, which is to avoid cliches. And there's the associations game, which is like kind of like what we did, like using single player and using like words that like kind of feel that are aligned with someone's career or someone's occupation. Then there is the music, like thinking about words as having rhythm and stuff, although the book doesn't really a good job of explaining this. And then there is this one, which is like about writing sentences about people. So when you have a sentence like her eyes scorched into the corridor, you might want to replace it with she searched the corridor, because that makes it more interesting. So we got a whole lot of stuff that's happening here at once, and it's a little bit hard to keep track of all of it. And of course, the only really good way of learning it is practicing it over and over again. But it's just like it's really tough. Um, Her son was already like going to the computer screen. Something about like a brightly lit screen. She waddled to his. Instead of yelling, what about wailing? I think wailing gives a very specific imagery here. Okay, yeah, I like that. I like basement, but the reason why I'm not putting in basement here is actually because it I think it I think it's too specific. I think it takes away from like it's a word that it implies like sort of like submerging into, I don't know. I just have a hard time knowing exactly where to include. Like she waddled to the basement, but then I had to like reinforce that the basement is his room. I think for now, I'm not a good enough writer to include the basement details, so I'm gonna just stop it here. Okay. Um, let's do the sentimental mother. Okay. That'll be good. I think for now I'm gonna take a little break. Okay. Hello. Hi. I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna take a little bit of a break, and then I'm gonna come back. So I'm gonna take about 10 minutes or so, 5 minutes ish. We'll see. I'm gonna come back, and then we're gonna finish this, and then we're gonna pat ourselves on the back, and we're gonna say we did a goob job to the iron golfer. God, I hope I can succeed in that. All right, I'm back. Hello. Hello. I was trying to find honey. I spent like 5 minutes trying to find honey because I have honey. I know there's honey in this house, and I want honey. And I want honey because I want to I I want to lubricate my voice. I want to lubricate my throat box. Oh, because it needs to be lubricated because I because because it does, and honey is a good way to do that. And I want to not strain my voice. That'd be cool. And then I don't know where the honey is. So I I guess life hates me, and I guess God hates me. That's the conclusion that I have arrived to. Because it's just there should be honey in this house, and I don't see it. I don't see it. So uh yeah, that's unfortunate for me, but that's okay. Um oh, got an Amber Alert. Oh no, I'm not gonna do anything about it. Okay. Do-do-do-do-do. And we're back. All right. Hello. Here's what I am going to do as a little warm-up exercise. So I feel like I started writing without really warming up much. And I also haven't written too much recently, so I'm gonna warm up. This is my warm up stream of consciousness writing session warm up. That's what this is. This is what we're doing right now. We're doing our writing warm up, stream of consciousness, writing warm up, session warm up. And here is hello, Mariners. Hi. You missed a little. Here's what you missed is something that I'm trying is I'm when I come back, when I come sort of like return from a break, I'm gonna be in this mode for a little bit, just to like have a conversation with. So this is something. So I don't know why I'm telling you this, but this is what will happen. So I'm going to be sort of like this doggy for a little bit. Just to in a way, this is a little bit also like warming up for me. It was like warming up for me to sort of like get into character. Hi, Sunroku. How's it going? Did we write, edit, and publish a novel yet? Yeah, we did actually. That is actually what we did. You missed it. You missed all of it. I'm sorry to say. You missed my little propellation into the stratosphere. I don't know if that's a real word. All right, let's go back. Let's go back into serious mode. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Ha. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. I just made a 4-chapter story on my persona. Is that real? Is that is that a real thing? So I would love to read it. I would love to read it. And guess how big he is. Uh, I'm guessing pretty big. I'm guessing it's pretty big. So what we're going to do, just as a warm up, is I'm just gonna do the just write. I'm literally going to just write. I'm gonna write whatever comes up to my head. All right, we're gonna do this. So you guys are gonna get a little peek into my subconscious. Whatever, I'm really gonna try to do this. Whatever is happening in here, I'm gonna write down. So we do need a story idea for this. Here's my story idea. It's gonna start with the dog. Okay. All right. The dog started barking when he saw the light at the sky. Okay. The light shine brightly like a green emerald. How do you write emerald? It crashed into the distance, the dog and many other dogs started all barking at once. And then here, I guess we're gonna include dog POV. So here's what exile. Are we going to be exiled? And now we need a dog name. Brutus knew this was not about that, but he barked it anyway. So he said okay, yeah, we're not gonna think about it. And he says exile. The words barks echoed across the town. What's happening here? So unexpectedly, oh my god, this is gonna be such a horrible story. Unexpectedly, there were his owners did not rise in the night. So I guess so the house remained dark. Okay, all right. What's happening here? So okay, I literally don't know what's happening. So his house and all the other dogs' houses stayed dark again. So they stayed occluded by the night sky. Oh god, this is horrible. Okay, all right. By the darkness. So as it was 3 a.m. So we're gonna say that. So it was. So we can saw the light of the sky in the break of dawn. Okay, sure. Oh god. Oh, this is so bad. Why is there a green light? So the owners are at the okay. So the owners didn't appear there. There, in fact, there was no trace of people across the whole town, the whole neighborhood. Okay, that's unfortunate. So then, what was the dog doing? And the Brutus. So see, he has a way to escape. Escapes. Escapes the perimeter. Escapes to the perimeter in his usual way. Digging underneath the fence. So then, like, so then, other dogs with similar escape methods. Okay, they find he and other dogs meet at the middle of the street. Okay. No, all the humans have disappeared. All their owners are missing, and the green glow has captured their attention. Okay, all right, okay. So here's okay. We're at the story, and then one by one, the dogs head to the promise of the light. Oh god. They expected. Also, I don't know why they can see the color green now, but whatever, it's fine. They expected a smell. Let's think about smells. Okay. So think about sensing the smell. As they drew closer, do they draw? Is that a word you say? Do you draw closer? I don't know. As they drew closer, the scent what would a green glow light smell like? The smell scent of uh uh sulfuric acid. Waft, waft, is that a word? How do you say waft? What, whiffed? What I'm trying to say? They the scent grew, grew. Okay, the scent I don't, why did it smell like sulfuric? I don't know what sulfuric acid smells like. Whatever, it's okay. So it grew, and then okay, here's what's happening. The dogs were confused, but they marched on. We're not gonna stop typing. Not gonna stop typing. Right? They marched on. Um, uh, um, more and more dogs followed. Entranced by this mysterious color they had never seen before. Okay, so they can mysteriously see this. So, um, um, uh, uh, um, how do we end this? How do we end this story? Or maybe we're just okay. We're just gonna continue the story. So once they've arrived at once they arrived, or when they arrived, the glow and scent disappeared. What replaced it? It was a thought. Was a thought. Words they had never heard before, or in a language they were surprised to understand. Uh, 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 and then here's a thought. Here's what happened. They heard this. Give us the world, and we will return your owners. And then, so I guess this is an alien invasion story. The dogs were going to have a rough day. All right, that's it. It's my little warm up. Okay, all right, let's move on. We're not gonna read. We're not gonna read what we just wrote. See what anyone says yet. All right, all right. That's pretty good. I'm glad I got that out of my system. Let's continue. Are we still talking about the persona size? So when you said that he was big, are we talking about his height or are we talking about something else? That's kind of my question for that. Okay, let's think about a single sentimental mother. I'm sort of like kind of, see if we can maybe like tap into that, what I was doing right now. So the single sentimental mother, in fact, we can't even say mother. The quiet lady was pregnant, and she was feeling sad about what she's feeling sad about. She was feeling sad about missing the football game. Okay. All right. That's our sentence. Now let's improve it. Let's actually put in our effort to improve this. So she was missing the football game, and she really likes football. All right. Let's engage our rules. Let's actually make this something good. So the quiet lady was pregnant. What that how can we replace that? So instead of saying the quiet lady, we can say that she maybe like didn't want to be there. Okay, so the lady, maybe she was babysitting. Okay, so the lady was maybe she was babysitting, maybe she was, yeah, sure, babysitting. So maybe the babysitter. So she's a mother, but she's also babysitting. So the babysitter. So why would she be babysitting? Because the kids are going to the football game, and she can't go because she has to babysit. She was asked to babysit. So the babysitter, um, um, sprout, like sprout. What's the word I'm thinking of? Like the one where you're sort of like laying back. Let's think about it. Um. Also, wait, I have an idea. I wanna test something. I wanna see if I see something, if the chat, if my chat color is different. Something I would like to have, I would like everybody to have their own color in chat, and you guys both have the same color. They're both like green, this teal green. So I want to make sure that everybody can have a different color. View, docs, chat. So I'm gonna say something. I want to say, hi. No, I'm also green. What? What? I gotta fix that. Hold on. Give me a second. I gotta fix this. Um. I don't want everyone to be green. I want everyone to have their own unique color. Hold on. Whatever. I'll have to figure that out later. That's just unfortunate. Why don't people have their own unique colors? What? Whatever. Okay. Show my dot chat anomalies. Okay, whatever. I'll worry about that later. That's just unfortunate. Unless there's a way that I can sort of preview this here. Okay, so you guys should be having different colors. I don't know why you guys are all having the same colors. It's weird. Whatever. That's fine. Okay, so bracing the overstuffed laundry basket, she walked into his room, tried to knock, and then kicked his door. She was too late. Her son was already wheeling to his computer. Okay, that was our second one. So the third one, so babysitter's say maybe she was like, she was feeling sentimental. She could be like, maybe she like sprawled. I think sprawled was what I was looking for. Sprawled on the couch. Instead of saying without a word, I mean, instead of saying she was quiet, maybe we can say, or maybe we can maybe use like a metaphor, because I like, like as still as a model. So maybe she like sprawled on the couch. Frozen. Say Frozen wanting to be anywhere else, or yearning for to be anywhere else. Say maybe she watched the football game on a small screen and wondered about her husband and kids. Okay. That's my sentence there. Falling couch, Frozen, yearning to be anywhere else. She watched a football game on a small TV and tried to spot her husband and two kids in the cheering crowd. We can, I think, revise and adjust it later, but I think that's, I like it. I like it. An insane singer. What would an insane singer do? There's like, we kind of think of like different ways we can think of the word insane. Oh. Why are you guys all green? You guys should not be all the same color. That's so weird. That's so unfortunate. Whatever. Hmm. All right, I'm right, testing here. Why am I, what? Where is this background color coming from? So weird. Okay, whatever. It's fine. I kind of want to set up my own. Okay, I'm gonna have to set up my own sort of like CSS for this. I'm gonna have to set up my own like. Whatever. I'm gonna have to learn CS. Whatever. It's stupid. You guys should not all be green. That's unfortunate. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, I can figure out a way to improve this. For the insane singer, let's think of like, I think someone who is insane would like keep singing even though something seriously wrong is happening. So, like maybe she's okay. It's a crazy idea. So she was like actively giving birth. I don't want to keep this needs to be a woman, but she's actively giving birth and still giving a concert. This is my idea. This is my interpretation of an insane singer. She is, um, so let's say like nothing. Okay, let's just lay out the sentence that nothing would stop her from performing. Like, no matter how much pain she was going through. We're not going to include these in the sentence. We're just laying this out for us. It's a ridiculous thing. I mean, the other alternative is like maybe she would. I mean, she could like maybe stab people or do something like evil like that. But I think this is I think this gives the idea of insanity. I think pretty well. Then we got a depressed mayor, then an irate golfer. Let's start with number 4. So she is. Say this. So she's actively giving birth and still giving a concert. What should she? In fact, let's actually label this so that people have an easier time reading this. So let's say here, insane singer. Here, let's say sentimental mother. Just to make this more legible. Here we can say upstanding acrobat. Here, sort of paint this image. I have a different idea. I like this, but I have one even better. Maybe she's insane because she put spiders. She's insane because she put spiders underneath every chair. So we're assuming this is a concert with like chairs. But this sort of also sort of implies that she has sort of a lot of control of the setting. Like what kind of is she just like a singer on stage, or is she the artist of the stage? Let's just make her just a singer of the stage, and then so maybe she could be insane by jumping through hoops of fire, for example, or catching herself on fire. So we can say she set herself on fire to ensure that she could hit the right notes. Okay. does that make her insane? I think so. And here in that she could hit the right notes. I think that sounds a little bit cliche, but We can say like she knew how to motivate herself externally. Maybe we can say like that this is like the most important concert of her life. So we can show that by saying she strained her vocal cords. She sprained her joints. She was accustomed to injury. We can say here. Let's actually go with the type of exercise we were doing earlier, where we were sort of like systematically approaching this one by one. So, are things we know related to singers? We know that singers are what do we know about singers? We know that singers are like performers. We know that they are probably eccentric, not always, but might associate them with that. We also know that a singer is maybe likes to be the center of attention or is comfortable with it. Maybe they like to dance and act. They're probably hardworking. Things we know about insane people is an insane person will kind of stop at nothing. An insane person will also is willing to hurt themselves and others. An insane person is wide-eyed. An insane person might be hallucinating. An insane person might not be experiencing reality well. They might be on drugs. So these are maybe the things that we might associate with insanity. And so here's what we're going to do. Maybe the singing, we kind of assume that she's at a concert, but she might not even need to be at a concert. She might just need to be like, she could be at home. She could be kind of anywhere. I'm going to go with concert just because that is, I think, what we tend to associate with singers. So when the curtains pulled, Danced on stage. She sort of like she was nowhere to be found. From above, a woman on fire sort of like descended. So the curtains pulled. She was nowhere to be found. Instead, from above, a woman on fire descended. And when she sang, she like professed. Let's look up words similar to professed. Go to word hippo. Like she swore, but like she screamed. What a word similar to scream. She yowled, she belled, she bawled, she bellowed. She howled. Howling. Howling a prayer. It's like a word similar to prayer. A worship. Howling a prayer to the occult. What is the occult? What does that mean? Howling a promise to the devil. Naked and howling a promise to the devil. or beginning. Sorry. Sang a song. Started singing. Sang the opener. Okay, I like something like that. I think we're gonna leave it at that. Okay, so we got insane singer. Next on our list is depressed mayor. Here, I kind of want to speed run these last two. Can I really kind of tap into that sort of stream of consciousness mode? Let's do it. Depressed mayor. Here's what he's going to do. He is very depressed. So he is going to be holding on to his body pillow and crying about his boyfriend leaving him while he's still at the office. With all the curtains pulled down. All right. That's the sentence. Let's fix it. We don't have to say he's very depressed. That's already implied, or we're going to imply it. So holding the tear-stained body pillow, he mustered the strength to sign the legislation. I don't know what words are related to like mayor, so we're gonna actually look that up. Words related words.io. Love this website. I'm gonna look up mayor. Here's gonna show this so that we can see this. Treasurer, police, leader, faith, mentor, principal, city council, sign, closed. Then sort of secluded back to his corner. Corner of his office. All right. Last one, irate golfer. He imagined his opponent's head on the ground as he struck the golf ball with all his strength, hoping it would land. Okay, that's our irate golfer sentence. So we got these two. We can improve them. Both of these are worth improving. This one's a bit comical. Cocooned in blankets that once smelled like her. I'm using the word her here, even though I wanted this to be gay. I'm using the word her here just because it makes it a lot easier to write. It just helps simplify life for us. That he and her are two different words. He mustered the strength to sign the proposed legislation. Back to his dark office. It's not his office though, it was Cocoon, it was him. So let's say here. Sign the proposed legislation is included back to his dark office and cocooned. Return to okay. Where cocoon of blankets. All right, I'm gonna leave it here. These two sentences, I think I'm gonna fix on my own. Sort of take it does take a lot out of me to write better. I think I am getting better instinctually over time, but like this is pretty hard. Holding the interesting body pillow. What can we do here? Sort of mustering the strength. That feels cliche. Here, I'm sort of painting him like an insect. So, what are some words related to like insect stuff? What do insects do? Insects, here's what they do. They molt. They molt, they... I also want to like look up like verbs. Verbs related to insects. Is there a way we can find this easily? They crawl, they feed, they molt, they grow. Here we go. They collect, they trap, they reproduce, they die. They grovel. They sting. Then crawled. Verb search. There's so many tools nowadays to help you sort of figure out what types of words to use. Individual, helpless, noxious, major, adult, small, new, national, immature, tiny, flying. Grovel, prevent, resemble, reproduce, consume. Bite. Egg. Ooh, egg. Can you say that you egged the strength? What is the synonym for egg, or like definition of egg? Verb. When you egg something, that's a verb. We urge to encourage, incite to action. He egged. Hey, um, here I say holding, but maybe we can say like he's getting out of bed. So departing. Insects depart, but on insects also sort of migrating. They migrate, they depart, they take terrain. They might be territorial. Here's something that an egg might. Oh, Here's one thing an insect might do. An insect might, see, the part of the tear-stained body pillow. Mm, let's say he is. Hi, Naughty Dog. How's it going? Like, it's me. It's Serious Goop. Oh, you do have a different color, huh? I don't know why some people have different colors and some people don't. Maybe it's a coincidence. Uh, I'm simply trying. I'm trying my best to write. That's what's happening. He egged the strength to sign the protocol edition and crawl back to the starting office. Concluding like someone smaller car. Yeah, we're just gonna leave it at that. I don't really feel like writing more. So these are like different exercises that I'm doing for this book, and I don't know. I want to like do a good job, and they're pretty hard because writing is pretty hard. These four, at least these first three, I like, and then these three I kind of I just you know, I kind of like shoehorned them in. I think I'll fix them later. Because I would rather make some progress on this book. So I think let's sort of just like move on from that. Okay. Start taking some notes. Description as indirect characterization. So here's what this book is saying. It's saying everything you write delivers a message to the reader, whether you intend it or not. This doesn't mean that every word is a problem. So basically it's saying that everything you write is going to deliver a message whether you want it to or not. Okay, here's an interesting thing. I'm gonna copy this quote. I'm gonna paste it here. Oh, there you go. Here's an interesting quote. Sometimes when you say things just because they are true, you accidentally deliver messages that contradict what you really want to say. Here's a sort of like lesson that I'm getting from this, is that admitting, or rather there is always collateral to information, right? There's always collateral to anything that you put into something. So when you're designing a character for something, for example, like you're going to have collateral if you decide to give a character a leather belt as opposed to a ribbon belt or something. Like I don't know if belts can be made out of ribbon, but like a string belt versus a leather belt, or even like a black belt versus a brown belt. There's always going to be something that somebody interprets. And it is good to align with information, or it is good to know what most people, how most people interpret something. So what that means is if there is like you're designing a character and a character has a certain detail, when adding details, when you're adding a certain detail to something, it's good to like you can have your own interpretation of what that detail is doing, but it's good to know generally how most people are going to interpret it. Otherwise, you risk having unintended collateral, and work with that collateral as opposed to against it. So like, don't try to subvert expectations unless you have a very good reason not to, or a very good reason to. So this is a sort of a topic that we've been talking about earlier, which is when you are describing a character. Let's say you're describing a bar, and then you describe a woman in that bar, and then you give details about what that woman is wearing. Like you're saying that she is wearing like tight clothing, and she's drinking alone or whatever. Then that information gives a very specific meaning. It tells the reader like, hey, this person is a like kind of is going to be like something like a prostitute or something like it. Like that is a thing that jumps at most readers' perspective, even if that isn't what that character is. And so you don't have to have that information. You like if that information is communicating that idea, then get rid of that information or use that information to your advantage. Like maybe add, like if you want this character to be something else, like maybe add the fact that maybe she's wearing an earpiece, and maybe she's wearing sunglasses, and those two details will completely change how you perceive that character. Here's another thing too. So if you're interviewing somebody and there happens to be an empty whiskey bottle on the desk, don't, unless you want the reader to think that that person is an alcoholic or that drinks regularly, then don't include that information. Don't include that detail. So details are assumed intentional. Here's something interesting. So the reader asks himself, what kind of person would choose to wear this? So if you're describing somebody having an outfit, the reader will ask themselves, what kind of person would choose to wear, own, maintain, and thus characters are born. So as we include detail, every detail, even though in real life this isn't true, and this is what separates fiction and reality, is that in fiction we assume that there's a reason for everything, like everything says something about somebody, whereas in reality we don't always assume that. Like we don't always assume, for example, like why do I have these specific pair of headphones? There might be a reason I did it, or there might not be. I might just choose random headphones, or I might choose these headphones specifically. Or the same thing with a microphone. Same thing with like my facial appearance, for example. Like why do I have this specific mustache? Am I trying to evoke something, or do I just like it, or did I not even think about it? Did I just do it? So this is how we create characters. This is how characters are born. They're born the second that we announce a detail. Here we go. Here's something interesting. Here, screenplay, the character Erica keeps her hair unusually short and is jaggedly chopped. And I only pointed out because it serves two purposes. She's weird and you're going to school. Exactly. And is hunting a werewolf. Ooh, that's a cool story. That's a cool story. I'd like to hear more about it. But yeah, exactly. Like the all like kind of like every single detail matters. Like everything sort of even when you're not, even when you don't intend it, things sort of like will sort of announce themselves or do something. And this isn't just characters and stuff. This is also like word choice. Like if you use the word said or you use the word again, every single word when you're writing something has a job, is doing something, is having an effect. And as a creator, as a writer, I think so much of writing is a little bit like taming words or finding ways to, like you kind of have to think of words as people, as like individuals with like jobs, and you have to figure out like do these jobs work together. So you're almost like directing these words together. Yeah, because also that is also it's an important thing. This is just about screenplays specifically, but like that the job of a screenplay is not to be art in and of itself, even though it can be, even though it often is. But that's not the purpose of a screenplay. The purpose of a screenplay is to facilitate the creation of the art that comes from it, like the movie or the play, the game. And so when you are when you are writing for a screenplay, like you have your job as a writer, but things like art, things like visuals, that stuff is decided by the artists and by the directors and by the cinematographer. And so that's not like your job, right? Your job is not to dictate that. And so if it is like you can include those details, of course, you can always include those details, but they have to really matter to the story. They have to really be justified. Otherwise, uh, you like that, it just kind of goes against like the industry or like what people kind of expect from that kind of industry work. Exactly, it's a blueprint to the house and not the house itself. Exactly. But then at the same time, there are certain times where you do have to include visual elements in your screenplay. Like if you are like if there's anything in the story that really relies on those visual elements, is like the hook. Like if you're um writing about like soldiers that wear specific armor, for example, um you should, in your screenplay, like you should include some, like you should know a little bit about what that armor looks like. You can't just leave all of that to the artist, because that's such an important part of the story, is how the armor looks like. But like the amount of like there's a weird balance, and I'm still trying to figure out what that balance is. But it's interesting how like sometimes you do want to include, you want to describe visuals in your screenplay, especially if they're related to the story and they're important. And sometimes you really don't want to, like you really want those to be explored by the artists. And I think there's a very interesting collaboration that happens there. And it's funny because like this really is like every detail, and this book is kind of getting into that. It's like saying, like, if you say a woman is fat, the reader assumes she's gluttonous and perhaps jolly. If you say a kid has pimples, the reader assumes he is shy. If you say the man is tall and broad-shouldered, the reader assumes that he is aggressive and confident. You can't get rid of those associations, and because there is sometimes truth to those associations, and it's not even to say like those associations are good or bad. It's just they exist, and art is a collaboration between the reader and the writer. The art does not exist on its own. I think that's a mistake that a lot of artists make. But art never exists on its own. Art exists in symphony and in concert with the whole world, the entire planet. And here's something that's interesting. So here, I think the writer is talking about, so if you must employ physical description that will lead to the faulty assumptions, try to erase the false image as quickly as possible. So here are methods to remove assumptions, because then it is possible to remove an assumption, and the author includes these ways. Let me write this down. I let everybody check out the outline. He suggested I make a note. The main character, Kevin, should wear something red at all times because it interprets retelling Red Riding Hood just with the male red. That was an angle I saw it from before, and I'm tempted to lead into it. That could be interesting. I wonder. So if this is a retelling of Red Riding Hood. Wait, the male is red. Okay. All right. Is this gay? Is this a gay story? I hope it's a gay story. It's probably isn't. I want more gay werewolf stories. But I will forgive you if it's not. But that's my hope. Yeah, that's kind of an artist decision, really. Like if it's a book, you could include that information, but if it's not, I think that's something that you kind of communicate with an artist, because an artist would be able to. Because here's the thing. Here's what I'm telling you, Naughty Dog, is that, as somebody who has designed characters, I've designed characters before. I've like I can tell a little bit about character design. Is that there are an infinite number of ways to communicate that it's a retelling of Red Riding Hood, and that this guy is red. So he could wear red on him. I could make that decision as an artist, or again, I have an infinite number of ways to think about this. I can think about the silhouette of this character, like the silhouette with like the Red Riding Hood and like the hood, and play with that. I can think about different props that Red Riding Hood could wear. I could maybe a tattoo, maybe literally tattoo that says the word red, which would be kind of lame. But there are so many ways to dictate that to say like the character must always be wearing something red, that could be limiting, could be, or it could be a fun challenge. It depends on the artist you're working with too. But I don't think you have to, is what I'm trying to say. Like if that feels special, if that feels like a fun gimmick to you, then I think that could be fun exploring. And so it's not a gay story. Darn it. Young budding romance story. My challenge to myself, though, is to portray a romance with no traditional PDA, no sexual suggestions, and the characters never say "I love you." What are some good examples of that in media? I've seen some. I think Attack on Titan is a good example of that, maybe. But red high school hoodie. So here's the thing too, is that like it also depends on how assertive you want to be with that. Because if a character wears like a red hood, like it's immediately obvious that the character is red. So like Kevin is red, is what I'm trying to say. So it kind of depends on, it depends. Maybe he's a redhead. That's like a way some people do that. And like that's why some people call him red. Although that would be kind of lame, but it also could be kind of fun. And whatever's fun to you. So I'm trying to say, it really is, There really is no right and wrong with that. Right or wrong way with that. But here's what I would do if you want to if you want to hear my info. Here's what I would try to do. First of all, I would make it a gay story between Red and the werewolf. But whatever. That's let's ignore that. I think when thinking about red, I'm thinking about different things that are colored red. For example, or not colored red, but could be colored red. Like white clothes are colored red when you bleed. Okay? Why? I'm gonna repeat this because this is like something I learned kind of recently that kind of blew my mind. That white clothes are colored red when you bleed. That's not that's not what blows my mind. What blows my mind is that you literally like that transformation, like you can use the material and the ways that material is affected by the world and by people and by fluids and bodily fluids and stuff. You can use that to your advantage to tell whatever story it is that you want to tell. So if this is like a character that's kind of becoming more innocent, or a character that's sort of like learning to be more youthful or be more joyful, a character who's like Kevin, who's sort of like learning, this is not your story, but let's say it was, he's like a person who has like, he's tormented and he's broken and he wants to be youthful again, and then, or not youthful again, but like he wants to be like, return to the peace that he had when he was a child. And so like maybe as a child he like wore red. Okay, then as an adult maybe he like confronts the werewolf, and maybe part of like confronting the werewolf is like maybe like whatever instance is it, maybe it's a fight, or maybe it's like they like work together and they're fighting something, but then maybe they like, so maybe they wore red as a kid, and then as an adult they stopped wearing red, and then during the fight, like one of the climax or whatever, then his shirt turns red from the blood. Maybe it's his blood or someone else's blood, and then as a viewer you're like, oh my god, that's like, he's like being reborn or rejuvenated or whatever. He's like, he did the thing he had to do, and now he can be peace or whatever. I don't know. That's like an example. There's like so many ways to be creative with that. Yeah, that's kind of my uh like, I don't know, my not advice, but just like my take. So going back to this, toss into the vomit draft and change if it doesn't work. I love vomit drafts. I love having like different, just like absolutely like, I love the thought, like the phrase vomit draft. I think that's great. So here's something interesting. Here's a really interesting thing here, is that methods can be removed by telling. So here's a place where we can use telling instead of showing. This is really, because we're saying here, despite his uncanny resemblance to Burt Reynolds, he has never been at ease with women. Even though this is we're not showing, we're telling, but this is a good place to put it. Is it quickly gets to the point of something. Very, very interesting. Here's the next chapter, which is the universal and the specific. Sometimes you'll want your readers to experience negative emotions. Okay, here's some interesting things here. Except I only have 40 seconds left on the timer. So, damn. I got less through today than I did last time. That's really unfortunate. But I'm so close to finishing this part. Oh no! That's fine. Part 5, part 6, part 7. Part 8. Oh my god. Okay, we're a good chunk through this book. Okay. Okay, here's my hope, is that I can finish this book by the end of the month. That's sort of my hope here. We're gonna see if I make it through. I don't know. I hope so. Sorry, did I say by the end of the month? I meant within the month. So by the end of next month, I can finish this book and I can move on. Because I want to move on. I want to start writing. But I told myself that I'm going to finish this book. So I gotta. That is going to be today's stream. I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank everybody who's tuned in today. I'm still seeing about like what kinds of streams I really want to make. I still don't really know. I'm still figuring that out. So I hope everybody can forgive me a little bit as I, fumble through this. But yeah, he's great, isn't he? Isn't he so good? He's just going yep. And to me, this is like a really fun way to help engage myself in two sort of different modes of thinking or modes of streaming, like modes of being. Like I have the one way with the person where I am trying to accomplish a goal, and then I have this mode, which is it's either the preparing for that mode or the coming down from that. It's like it's the getting ready to stream, or it's the I haven't done streaming and now I'm here. And this lets me, I think, be pretty casual, and I think it lets me sort of have fun and be a little bit chirpy and remind people that I am actually in fact a dog. This is the real version of me, and that the other version of me is a false idol, and that we should punish him. So yeah, that's kind of it. I think that's it for today's stream. Yeah. I'm gonna go for a walk. I might stream again tonight. We'll see. It kind of depends how I'm feeling. And I really want, here's the thing, is that I really want these streams to matter. Like I want these streams to have a good purpose to them. And I think one of the purposes that I can maybe communicate or I can do better in is maybe I can teach. Maybe I am better at teaching than I think. And what I've been doing so far is that I've been learning while I stream, which I think is good, because it is, I think showing the process of learning is important, but it also, I think can take away and also makes a less interesting stream. That's sort of my understanding of that. And I want these streams to be interesting. I want these streams to be engaging. I want people to feel like they can collaborate with what I'm doing. Like if I'm writing a story, I want to be able to take input from people. And I want to make everything about this process seem as fun as possible. So we're gonna keep exploring and keep doing stuff. I'm gonna sort of have faith in the fact that I like talking and I like yapping, and that will hopefully get me far. That will get me somewhere where I can have interesting conversations with people, and then I can bark at people and weird them out, and I think that'll be fun. So yeah. That's it. I will see everybody later. Bye.